All right, welcome everybody, both here tonight on the Zoom and in the future when you're looking at a recording of this. I'd like to welcome you to a program that we call 50 Ways to Lure a Leader. It's all about one of the key steps to successful and sustainable Cub Scout recruiting. We've got a QR code there for the website page that has this PowerPoint and a plethora of other resources because it's necessary. Recruiting leaders is absolutely critical. When the BSA did a survey in the last year and looked at why people stuck or left the program, the number one reason why families left was the den or the pack had poor leadership. After COVID concerns, that was also numbers 3, 4, 5, and 6 in various iterations because den leaders weren't engaged, they didn't communicate well, they weren't welcoming, they were overtaxed. So having leaders working as a team to lead the pack and lead the den is absolutely critical. Now, I wish we could say there was one thing that you had to do in order to solve the leadership challenge in your pack and in your den. Sadly, I would be lying to you if I said there was one thing you needed to do. There's a lot of different things you can do, and it's going to depend on your people, your abilities, what you see you could sell, what you could deliver, what will work in your local community, the parents and families that are part of your pack. Although at the center, as we go through lists of tips here, the ways to lure a leader, the key is to have a culture of leading, to make sure that your pack and your den don't send the message of, oh, great, sign up for Cub Scouting, drop your kids off, and every other week we will provide them with great program for 1 hour. You won't have to do anything. You want to have a culture that says, we are leading, we are all doing this together. It takes a village to teach a child. We are all the village elders. We need to work together to be leaders for these kids. I'm going to rotate through other things that connect with that, like having good organization of what your jobs are, right-sizing those jobs, how to slice and dice to create jobs that are meaningful, but also small enough that a parent can look at it and go, oh, I could do that. I'll step up and pick up that part of the job. Right-sizing the program. If you're doing too much and you don't have leaders who can support that, maybe you need to dial back. We'll focus on different ways to have success doing that. We do focus on using activities as a lure because as you say, hey, we're going to go do these things, you're going to have some parents who go, hey, that sounds like fun. Or the best one is when they say, oh, I used to do that when I was younger, because that is a way that you can set the hook and maybe bring them in to help lead at that activity and maybe become a true den leader. We'll talk about ways to communicate, both directly messaging and inviting, and also, semi-subliminal ways that are absolutely important, like recognition of leaders and helpers so that they feel that they are appreciated for what they do in the program. So let's take a look at this. Creating a culture of leading. The number one thing here is we need to remember when recruiting that we're not just recruiting youth, we're recruiting families, not just the kids, also the parents. As part of that, have an every parent leads policy or every parent helps, whatever you want to call it, so that when parents are faced with what do we need to agree to as part of joining your pack, part of it's going to be an application online or paper, part of it's going to be payment online or cash or check, part of it's going to be, will you agree to our policy that every parent has to participate? And that helps you create a culture of leadership. I believe that we need to recruit leaders right away, that nobody gets a pass of saying, I'm new, because you can make a way for everybody to help right from the jump. maybe not a big job. Maybe they're not going to be a den leader, although, probably one of your kindergarten parents needs to be a den leader. But there are ways they can help as an assistant or a helper and do something meaningful to support your den, your pack, and most importantly, your kids. Be specific when you're telling people we have a policy of every parent leads. What exactly is it that you expect parents to do? You want to lay it out for them. Have a handout. Here's an example that is a Word document that's on the recruiting leaders page that basically says our every parent helps rule is you got to do two things: help lead 2 den meetings, serve as a registered leader, or be active on a PAC team. So you're asking people to commit in some way. They don't have to be a den leader or committee person. They could be active at putting on the Pinewood Derby and make that their commitment. But we need everybody to step up, and this piece and other resources that you'll have will help people see how they can contribute and have the right role for them. This is also critical. When you have a job chart, we'll see an example of one in a second. You may have a gaping hole, but you don't want to just push somebody into the next open position. Better to connect people to their passion. So if you have somebody who's an accountant, they love it, they love spreadsheets, that's perfect for treasurer. If you have someone who's an artist who can't balance a checkbook, that is not the person to be your treasurer. Vice versa. If somebody is, no good at going in the out of doors and finding snakes and exploring, crawly things, you may not want that person to lead your nature hike. Find the person, even if they're not a registered leader, to be the one out there exploring nature with your kids. Because if it's their passion, they'll love it more, they'll do a better job. If it's not, they're not going to do the job, or they won't do it well. Here's another idea about creating a culture of leadership. Don't turn training into a you have to do it thing. It should be a we should do it thing. So take your team to live training. Why? Okay, you may say, well, I don't need to go to training. I've been trained. Well, I go to a lot of trainings every year because I do a lot of trainings every year. And I guarantee you, I learn something new every time. Plus, if you're taking a team of your leaders and parents, your future leaders, and all going together, sharing notes, getting the word, you will be able to contribute a lot, not only to the live class, but more importantly, your wisdom about how your packs and dens do it locally, so that you are molding your team about how you're going to deliver the program. Because every pack is different, all scouting is local. So here's a tip. Don't make it a solo job. I think we're better off recruiting den co-leaders than den leaders. If you tell someone, we need you to be the leader, they may think, now you're getting me all alone out there and I'm gonna be abandoned by everyone else. I'm sure we've seen that happen where a den leader volunteers and everybody all of a sudden goes, whoop-de-doo, I don't have to volunteer now. No, we want to make it a team. And so if you make it co-leaders, if you make it a leadership team, that is, number one, going to be easier on those who volunteer. And number two, it's more attractive to parents these days who are more comfortable being part of a team. Sometimes you're going to use the "it takes two" mantra to lay down the law, because under youth protection rules, we need 2 deep leadership. That means 2 deep registered leaders when you're having a den or pack activity. Sometimes you can get away with it if you're at, different corners of a schoolyard and you can see the other den over there, and together you have 3 registered leaders. But if you don't, you are supposed to shut down the activity. And so you want to have a depth chart where you've got multiple parents who have the youth protection training, the background check to be registered leaders. They should want that. It's only safe for their kids. And we hope that parents who are joining our program want to be safe for their kids. Next tip, don't just lay down the law, but share the aspirational benefits. Why would they want to lead? it's a cool thing. Number one, their kid's going to love them more for it, respect them more for it. Their kid's going to see them not as a parent who's sitting on the sidelines, but somebody who is up there in front of the den, in front of the pack, respected by the other kids, the parents, seen as a font of wisdom. That is good for building a stronger family. It's also going to be rewarding for them. I love the fact that as my kids got to the end of their high school years, kids that I knew for a year or two in Cub Scouts would come up and chat with me about their life's aspirations, where they're going to go to college, all those things. Why? Because I made a connection with them as a Cub Scout leader. I also made, connections with their parents, and we got a lot of friends that way that we still stay in touch with. Those are benefits of leading. It's not all just work. Speaking of not just work, make it fun. Have just pure social time for leaders so that it's not a leader meeting where everybody's in the khaki shirt. You can wear your tie-dye and just go out and have a cookout, or go to your local cafe and have your favorite beverage responsibly and enjoy time just getting to know each other, because in those moments you're going to make connections. Plus, you're also going to come up with probably some great ideas for how to run your pack, how to run your den. As you have those social activities, find some mentors, maybe from a troop. They may be people who used to be great den leaders or Cub masters and are willing to come back from their troop and help out a Cub Scout pack. They should want to do this anyway, because no Cub Scouts rolling into the troop. In a few years, there'll be no kids for the troop Scouts to lead, and then all of a sudden the troop is in trouble. So troops have a vested interest in being mentors to Cub Scout leaders and keeping that pipeline of Scouts rolling on. Next tip. Some packs quantify their contributions, and a 100 points policy is something that is touted this year by the national program. Now, there's a lot that are out there online, and some of them are good, and some of them you just look at and go, I'm not sure that's exactly the way we want to roll it out. Most of them, for example, refer to den leaders as having weekly meetings. And I know, the National BSA knows most packs meet every other week. Frankly, some meet only, most dens meet every other week. Some dens meet once a month, and they do fine. So we have a Word version of an example of this on our website. This is what it looks like. You can adjust your descriptions, adjust your point values. If you've got plenty of den leaders, but not enough event leaders, maybe jack up the points there. But you can make that fit how you want to get people to volunteer. Another tip to create a culture of leaders. This isn't an official, troop or pack committee materials, but having a succession planning assignment on a pack committee could be a great thing, where the person isn't recruiting the people to lead in the current program year, but are lining up people to lead in the following program year. You may find a lot of people say, I'll help out this year, I'll take notes, and then next year, cut me loose, I'll be the den leader. That's a great thing to start building, because it's going to make your program more sustainable. You'll have a policy. We have in every parent helps policy, but people don't follow through. Sadly, this is going to happen. You just need to remind people, hold people to that. And say, how are you going to help? Not right away, but at some point you will have that conversation with somebody who's clearly just dropping off their kids and not otherwise helping out. Now, there may be good reasons why they aren't, and you need to be kind. That's the way scouting is. But if they can help, find a way that they can participate. More on this later. So let's talk about organization. Having a list of the jobs you want to fill, or a help wanted list from time to time, is very critical. An example of a chart that this is dense, it's in a Word document on the Atlanta Area Council site, but it's worthwhile because it breaks the pack down by dens, who's in the den and who's volunteering in various functions and at various events. The goal here will be to get every parent involved in some function in some way, so that you may have parents who are going to help with activities, campouts, what have you, helping with the Derby, support for advancement, support for communications. And as people volunteer, even if they're not going to be a den leader or a chair or an assistant chair, just serving that den, that grade level, you get them involved in some fashion. And you also note that we need activity coordinators for the big events that are going to happen during the PAC year, so that it's not always the Cub Master organizing the open house, the pool party, the back-to-PAC picnic, the fishing event next month, but rather you share that load with different parents. Not that you're going to fill up that chart ever, but the more names that you get engaged, the better off for everybody. This is, everybody says, many hands make light work. Well, not if you don't actually spend the time breaking down jobs and roles into small parts, so that you create a whole bunch of pieces of light work that the many hands can pick up. That's the sad part of organizing, but since you have to plan for what your activities are, you're either doing it all by yourself, or you can divide up those bits of roles and share it with others, and then you have more people helping you deliver the program. Same thing in dens. You may be a den leader, you may be thinking, oh, I've got to lead this, hiking activity, or I've got to teach them Bobcat. You can share streamlined, simpler adventure plans with parents, and that way you and they can lead something together. They're not looking at the den leader and saying, I'm sorry, I can't help. You're the only one with the den leader guide. You can give them the website. You can print copies of the plan that you're going to use that day, and then point out what part of it they can do. Is it the opening, leading the pledge and the scout law? Is it going to be the game? Is it going to be for a hiking activity as you get started on the hike? Have a parent talk about the importance of the 6 essentials. If you give them a plan, give them some light work, then many hands can take all those pieces of light work and deliver the program to their kids. Another idea, same concept, leading events. PACs will have traditional, campouts, Pinewood Derbies, what have you. And a lot of times people ask, how are we going to do that? And the general answer is going to be, we're going to do it like we did last time. Be sure you have a plan that shows how you did it, and create basically a lessons learned, so that if we're doing this again next time, we would change this and that, because that's going to be super valuable for the people who lead the event next time. Makes it helpful, and that way it's not the same person having to lead the same event year after year after year. Now, as you get jobs that aren't filled, some of you who are Cub Masters and den leaders are going to go, I know, I have to do it. Avoid the temptation of putting your name as the person doing all those things. Even if you're stepping in to fill the breach, let the job chart have that gaping hole, so that parents see the visual when you share it, that they need to help out in some way, and hopefully they'll find something that fits their passion. Another concept, nobody's willing to be the leader, whether it's a den, whether it's an activity. Go ahead and collect people who tell you, well, I can help, but I can't be the leader. Because if you get enough helpers, if you get enough assistants, at some point, it's a no-brainer for someone to go, I have 5 people who are willing to be assistants. I'm comfortable that since they'll be helping me, I can step up and be a leader. I can do this with that team. So that's positive. And frankly, you may turn to one of those 5 assistant helper volunteers and ask one of them to step up and accept the help of the others. Another concept, especially for big events, is if you don't have like a team to put on a Pinewood Derby, a banquet, a camp out, tell each small group, hey, we need somebody from the group to volunteer to be on the Derby team, the camp out team, the banquet team. And that way people can think of it as a smaller group that they're volunteering for, and then they join a team putting on the bigger PAC event. Here's another concept, term limits. You're recruiting for Cub Master or Den Leader, whatever the role. Make it Cub Master for this year only. so that somebody sees, I see my exit strategy, I'm in it for this year. And maybe you're going to get that volunteer, especially if you're thinking about succession planning, who says, I could help this year, but be Cub Master next year. And that way you have a line of succession, and you're also creating a team where this year's helper is learning from the current Cub Master or den leader. Now, at some point, you're going to have Cub Masters and den leaders who are like, all right, it's February of 5th grade. My kid's joining the troop. Bye-bye. That's the worst time to step down. Better would be to, especially if you haven't lined up your replacement. If you're a Cub Master and time's up, you're going over to the troop and somebody else has to step up and be Cub Master, that pack may fail for lack of a Cub Master. A better approach is to resign early. Say as your kid's going into the 4th grade year, tell the next Cub Master, I'll be an assistant Cub Master. I'm still here for 4th and 5th grade year, and I'll help you. And that will give you the support you need to be successful. So you're not abandoning anybody, but you're forced to prep for your successor to be taking over. You can do that at a den level. You can do that at a event level, whether it's camp out, derby, banquet, whatever, and that'll help you generate a productive team. What about the parents who haven't volunteered? You've asked, you've had, you've communicated the need, you've talked to them. At some point on that job chart I put up a second ago, the second page has a section where you would list the names of the parents in the den level who have kids in the pack who are active, but the parents haven't volunteered yet. We don't put that up right away, only after there've been a lot of asks. But at some point, number one, that's easy for you because you can look at who do I need to contact to fill some of these roles for upcoming events. And it creates a little bit, possibly an incentive for people to get off that part of the list and step up and have a role that they're participating in. Another concept for organizing, get feedback. You may have come up with the best plan of how to organize dens or events, but ask the people who are getting it done, what changes do we need to make? What's broken? Do we need to fix something? Because you can adjust your organization plan, your slicing and dicing of jobs as the year goes on and do it better. So let's look at a new segment of ideas on how to create a culture of leadership and make it effective. You got to give people the opportunity to sign up for a job. Obviously, being an adult leader means they're submitting an application. If they haven't put down what role they want to participate in, which I don't even think they can in online applications, you have to ask them, do you want to be a den leader, an assistant den leader, a committee person, Cub Master, assistant Cub Master? You want to get them in that role, but that's just the registered roles. Also have signups like on that chart for the small pieces where they are part of a team, where they're leading just an event, and create multiple ways to do it. Obviously, passing around a chart where they can write their name in, beautiful thing. Same is beautiful as online signups, like Sign Up Genius is a great way to get people to sign up. And that way it's immediately visible to others who go onto that site. They can see who's signed up. Now, the BSA loves the talent survey. It's very valuable if people fill it out accurately. It can give you a great source of information so you know how to go back and ask them where we can plug you in. But even better, just get to know parents, because there are some parents who either won't fill out the survey or will fill out the survey and write, I really don't have many skills. I don't think I can help in any way at all. But if you get to know them, you'll probably find out something about them. And you'll figure out a way where they might be able to take their latent skills and really become effective leaders in their den, in the pack. Now, the best way to ask anybody, ultimately, it all comes down to the one-on-one ask. Lots of ways to do that. You could obviously send them an email, send them a text, call them up, leave a voicemail, and that's good, because if you get them live, they may answer. They know that when you send a message just to them, you're trying to reach them. In my experience, a lot of times, even if you send a message to a mom and a dad, they'll each think you're asking the other person, because mom is going to go, dad's the one who's taken my daughter to Cub Scouting, and mom's going to, and dad's going to go, you must be asking mom, because mom's the one who runs the calendar. So nobody's responding to you, or they see you're asking and they're just going to ghost you. That happens. So even better, when they're there, when they come to an event, during that before time gathering, during the after time, or during, a break in the action, ask in person what you want them to do, what you think they'd be able to do, because you can then modulate your discussion around why they say they can't, or immediately bargain into something else. For best results, when you do make an ask, make it specific. Make it a small ask if you're not sure they can really take on a big job. But if you're specific, if you outline what the job really involves, and most importantly, share how you can help them succeed by plans, last year's activity plans, Den Adventure resources, here's a team of assistants, you can get them to yes a lot better. I mentioned having, plans where you call out who's leading what. Here's a way to do it for a den leader. This is out of the first Den Adventure, the Bobcat plan that hopefully every new parent's going to pick up as part of school night recruiting. This plan builds in the idea of not having the den leader do everything. Frankly, the den leader should ideally just introduce parents, so that a parent leads the Pledge of Allegiance, a parent leads the Scout Law, and all the other activities in that meeting are like that, where you would at the beginning assign a parent to it so that they can see their part. It's a small piece. They can master that. They can deliver it. They can succeed. And as we'll point out, you will recognize them for it because they did a good job. Also, at parent orientation, you will have to make a group ask. You're going to have to pitch, unless your pack has just an amazing amount of built-in den leaders and a big depth chart, and everyone volunteers automatically before they even turn in a youth application. You're going to need a way to make a group ask, especially to fill the den leader job, because that's the most critical, that's the hardest to fill. We've got a script document that has different options so that you could do the talk with different grade levels, because a grade that has a bunch of leaders doesn't need the same pitch as the grade that has no leaders. A grade that has one person who's done it all but no assistants is going to need a different pitch than a grade that has, has co-den leaders and 4 assistants. So there's different options to do that. If you have a pack that has really hardly anybody signed up at all, there's also a pitch to the whole pack. And this is a Word document, so you can edit this to be your script for how you're going to pitch your pack, your dens, about how to lead. Here's an idea. It works for Friends of Scouting. How about a helping out pledge card? So this is an example from a troop from a few years ago. We created a pledge card as part of a court of honor. You could do it at an orientation meeting for a pack as well, where you just list the jobs you got to fill, plus some easy ones that are great entry-level positions, and let people check the box as to how they can help. Part of communicating is making it clear to parents why it's important to be a leader for their scout, to make that positive impression, to build those ties now. Because if you've ever seen the Lifetime demo, also called the yardstick, it's very effective to demonstrate to a group of parents that time is running out. These are the formative years in the Cub Scouts' life. After they hit 11 and they become snarky teenagers, it's going to be harder to have that positive influence. But now, while they're 6, 7, 8, you are the center of their world. You are right about all things. You're going to be wrong when they get to their later teenage years. And then hopefully when they get in their early 20s, they'll realize you suddenly got smarter. But this is a great way for people to sit back and realize, you're right. If I don't help now, if I don't lead now, if I don't create the positive example now, if I don't create deeper connections with this kid, I'm going to have lost my chance. Another way to communicate the need to lead to have a great PAC program is some PACs will put on the wall where you're having orientation, something that has the name of every parent. Just tape it up. Some people will actually have their scouts outline them on a big sheet of paper, so it's a giant body outline up with the person's name. Simple way to do it, just take a piece of paper and outline the hand, write the name in. And the concept is, as you're pitching during the orientation about ways to help, here's the job chart, these are ways to help your den, these are ways to help your PAC. You encourage the parents to go over to the wall to write their name on their hand that's on the wall under their name. This is the job I'll do, or these are the jobs I'll do. And eventually you're going to have hopefully a lot of people who've written something in, and then you can narrow down the focus of the ones who haven't put something in and work on them in order to get them to step up. Here is a way to have sort of the ghost of PAC future image. There's a PAC in Jonesboro that I think did this a few years ago, where they had a whole bunch of 5th grade leaders. And so they had an event in the winter and they said, we want to get all of our leaders to come up and be recognized. And even some of the younger dens were being led by 5th grade parents. And what they did was they had, the group of 12 parents up there saying, congratulations, we thank you for doing a great job this year. Now let's look into the future. Well, those of you who are departing and going over to the troop this year, who will no longer be cub leaders, please step off the stage. And suddenly 12 is down to 4. It's like the rapture has taken away all of these parents. And the concept there was to drive home. We need new people to step up, and let's do it this winter and this spring so that we can prep you to lead for a whole program year. Another possible thing to do is at an orientation, put down on pieces of paper, PAC support jobs, and from registered roles down to collecting applications or reminding about youth protection training, and just randomly hand out jobs to everybody, and then having a 15-minute social session where you ask everyone, if you don't like the job you've been given, find someone and trade with them. See what happens. Now, they may not play, and they may say, no, we don't want to do that, but you can also visualize with them what it looks like if you lay all those job cards on the Cub Master. Because if you force the Cub Master to do everything that's on these cards all year long, what's going to happen to that Cub Master? That Cub Master is going to burn out. That's too much. But if you take those cards and share them around and say, surely somebody could lead a game. Hey, my kid's not in school. Who could be part of a team leading school relations? You will get people to hopefully realize, yeah, we need to share as we can. Another way to make that clear is balloon job juggling. Instead of cards, you actually blow up balloons and say, here's, collecting applications, here's leading PAC activities, here's handling recharter, here's school relations, and see if the Cub Master can juggle all those balloons. Can he keep them all up in the air? Throw some wild cards in, like taking care of an ill parent, forced to work extra shifts at the job. And then, visually they will see, wow, we do need to help out more. Now, another way to do that same thing is to, do the, we always joke, oh yeah, I wear many hats in scouting. And so, bring a bunch of hats. You probably have them in your closet. You could bring party hats, put jobs on them, bring other hats, and show what it looks like if the Cub Master is forced to wear too many hats and do too many things. But if you share all the hats, put party hats on everyone, hey, maybe they'll realize we got to do this. Now, here's a wacky idea, not a good way to actually force people to be Cub Master or any other job is, if people aren't willing to volunteer, have a lottery and say, okay, next job up is popcorn kernel, and you pull a name out of a jar. Congratulations, you're the popcorn kernel. When you get to Cub Master, that's going to freak out somebody, but it's, just sending a message, somebody's got to do it. And you don't want to assign it that way, but that is a way to say we could divvy out the jobs that way. Piece of advice, a lot of, sometimes councils and PACs will say, yeah, we need a goal. We want, 20% of our parents to step up and be registered leaders. That's a good internal piece of advice. That's a poor external message, because if I'm a parent that doesn't want to register, I'm going to think, this is great, 80%, we don't have to volunteer. I'm sure I'm in the 80%. So don't give them an out. Say every parent has to lead, every parent has to help. And be positive, invite them. You may have a, like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, you may have a card you give someone that says, we think you would be a great leader. And maybe you have a QR code to an inspiring video about leadership and say, we would like you to think about being an assistant den leader this year. You will be successful. That's important. I've mentioned this sometimes, use a non-uniform method. If you have few adult leaders, if parents, when they come to sign up night or even orientation, are looking at the khaki shirt and thinking, he's the scouting coach, he's going to handle it all. We're not coaches, he is. Look at his uniform. Look at his square knots. You may be sending a message that I am different than you. But if you're all wearing the same kind of clothes, you're sending a message, we're all together. I'm a parent just like you. My kids may be grown, but I'm a parent. I'm going to help you be a parent, be a better parent, and be a leader, which will make you a better parent. Now, I love the uniform. And I have an idea here called use the uniform method, where you give the shirt right off your back. Or if you're like, if you're a long time leader, you may have the shirt, it's in your closet, it don't fit anymore. The one in the back here is one that I have used actually at PAC orientations, where somebody, honest to goodness, last year said, hey, I see the kids are going to get the Bobcat patch today because we went through all the Bobcat requirements. Do I get a patch? And I said, do you? And I pulled the shirt up out of a box and I said, I will give you all the patches on this shirt and the shirt. And I had him come up, put the shirt on. How does it look? Give us a little Vogue, fashion show. And the guy's going, this looks pretty good. And so that is one way to, show that you too can put on the Superman outfit and be a leader. Now, here's a final communication gambit, the what's more important than your kid gambit. And this is where you have the kids in another space, in like another room, parents can't see them. And you say, hey, we'd like to do an experiment. We're going to go check out the kids next door, but I want everyone to put your phone and your wallet on the table. Just leave it there. And they're going to say, and then, you talk a little more, give more orientation about doing fun things and so on, being leaders. Then you say, now let's go and see the kids. And parents are going to pick up their phone and their wallet because they're leaving them, and just ask them, wait a second, you let us go off with your kid, but you won't leave your wallet and phone here. Really, what's more important? So that is one way some people use to make it clear that parents need to care a lot about their kids and spend time with them being a positive leader. All right, now some other ways to lure people. Activities can be a great draw. If you share your calendar of fun activities, you're going to have some parents who look at that and go, that looks super fun, or I love fishing, or, I used to be on the swim team. You wouldn't believe it, but I was, and you may find that you can use that to get them involved. And you may have a great calendar of activities, but always leave the door open, have an open invitation for more ideas, because especially a parent who is new, who says, why don't we go here? Why don't we do this? or a parent who may have been around for a couple of years and says, why do we have to go and do that again? Why don't we do this instead? You may use that person's interest in a new program to become more of a leader for their kids and the kids in the den and the pack. Sometimes just go ahead and overschedule. Put a lot of activities that we can do if we get someone to coordinate the activity. They don't all have to be super hard, like, it could just be a bike ride. And you can say, we just need somebody to pick where we're going to ride, pick the time and meeting location, and, prep, organize all the parents to go off and ride. And it's simple as that. Same thing for a hike, fishing, whatever. Doesn't have to be complicated. You may have people who sign up for that, and they'll be the leaders because they really like doing that. Now, sometimes you may not actually have leaders, and we'll give an example of what you can do then. Another great thing is don't look in the Cub Scout handbook and leader guides for what to do, but maybe look at what your parents like to do. What do dads do? If you have dads who like fishing, bowling, golf, tailgating, grilling out, do those things. You have a built-in source of expertise to make it super. Same thing with moms. You may have moms who are, maybe they're really super into running. There is no reason in the world why you can't make running a big part of your pack activity. Not that they're going to do the Peachtree 10K, but they might do the Peachtree Junior and other races along the way. This is good as part of the program. It's being physically fit. So take what parents do, make that part of your program. If you feel like, oh, we don't really have enough people to do a big event or a big field trip, or we'll get a discount if we have 50 people go, but we think we'll only have 30, see if you can joint venture with other youth groups at your church, maybe Girl Scouts. We can all be friends. That way you have bigger activities for more people. Here's a great thing. You're doing fun activities, maybe a swim party the next month. At some point, you're going to have a parent who says, is there a badge for swimming? And yes, there is. And if you're prepared, you can hand that parent the simple guide for whatever is the water adventure in Cub Scouting and ask, hey, could you help me teach this to our kids? And that could be a gateway to advancement leaders, which also is a gateway to that parent maybe stepping up and being a den leader or assistant. Also, think about sports. Some people say, we can't do scouting, we're doing soccer. Why? Find a way to make your schedule work with sports so that kids can do both. They need both. No reason why they can't. You may have to be flexible because you can't probably change the game schedule of league soccer, but if you're able to put, say, mini meetings after a practice, you may be able to recruit a bunch of the team to be part of your Cub Scout pack because they can do the sports and they can do the scouting and they can have fun doing both. Another concept, trophy turnabout. You have that parent who's been sitting in the background and suddenly they're on the podium or their kids on the podium for a Pinewood Derby. Maybe you get that, fired up dad who's super competitive about Pinewood Derby to be part of your Derby team for the following year, or at least help kids build their cars, fix their cars, work in the pit crew at Derby time next year, because obviously they're good at it. Why not? Here's a crazy concept. Cancel your Pinewood Derby. No, don't do that. But maybe when you have parent orientation, if you have jobs that haven't been filled because nobody put down Pinewood Derby coordinator, when you look at the list, if nobody signed up to be part of the Pinewood Derby team, if you sign them up that way, if you look at the list, say Pinewood Derby, nobody's interested in helping out, put this on, crumble that paper up, throw it in the trash and say, I guess we don't want a Pinewood Derby this year. Now, unless the parents are like total sheep or don't like Pinewood Derby because they had a bad experience, that's probably going to get a reaction to say, no, we like Pinewood Derby. We just thought someone else would sign up for it, and see if that's going to get you some helpers. It probably will. I mentioned having a lot of events, and maybe you say, look, to put this on, we'll need some parent to sign up It could be as simple as can be. We often use Scout Day at the Braves as this event where we say, we just need somebody to group everybody in the general admission section, email everyone where you're going to be, what section to gravitate towards so that we can all sit together. And if we get that, then we'll tell everyone to buy general admission tickets. The day, Monday after the Braves game, someone will say, we never went to the Braves. What happened? I thought we were going to do that. Answer is, we didn't get a leader. That's a sad thing. What do we have every time we've canceled the fall Braves game? We get that parent or two that said, oh, we can't let that happen again. And we get them to commit to go lead the spring day at the Braves so that it definitely happens for the kid the following year. So you can do that as a way to impress upon people, you got to step up. Now, positive part of communicating. Recognition, the most important thing. We know recognition is important for scouts. It's just as important for leaders. Parents love going to events where they see their kids get recognized. Why? They're proud of what their kids accomplished. Guess what? Same thing is true in reverse. Kids are going to love going to events to see their parents get recognized and thanked. They're going to be so proud that their parent was a great leader, a great helper, a font of all wisdom about whatever was done that day. They're going to be proud of the parent. That's good for a number of reasons. Most importantly, we're building stronger families through scouting. And if we can build those ties better because kids are proud of their parents and vice versa, we've accomplished that. Also, for your base motive of recruiting more leaders, if that kid is fired up about seeing a parent get recognized and thanked and a big round of applause and all that from the pack, that kid might say, Mom, you need to come and help out next time. And that way you've got someone helping you recruit. Why? Because you just said thank you. And so when they step up, especially into big roles like den leader, assistants, registered roles, hey, they've put in an hour and a half on youth protection training. Have something big to recognize them. An inauguration of you've stepped up to be den leader. Congratulations. Hail to the chief. Doesn't have to be at a PAC meeting. You can do it before a PAC event, but have something special to say, we appreciate you. And not just registered leaders, recognize everybody who helps out when they help out. Immediate recognition is the best way. Also, you might have as part of your general website, newsletter, e-blast, bulletin board at school, maybe you have an honor roll, list of the heroes who are helping out in your PAC. Who knows who's looking at that, but if you have those names, number one, say in a school or church or wherever, people are going to see who is involved, who's stepping up. That should hopefully, give a little bit of pride in the parents who are stepping up. It's also a way to advertise. Maybe people are going to say, hey, if Jack's a leader there, we want to be part of that program. You might even go further, have a parent of the month, stars of the game. If you've ever watched NHL hockey, they'll have 3 stars of the game. MLS soccer, they have the man of the match. So you could have, after an event, you call out somebody to be, the star of Saturday for your Saturday activity so that you're giving recognition and make it tangible. For registered leaders, they can get square knots, and for others, you could have other awards, baubles, gewgaws, tchotchkes, whatever you want to call them. Having some recognition that you had a parent to thank them is probably not terribly meaningful to the parent, but the kid may like it, especially if it's a rare collectible overstock patch, because the kid's going to go, cool, it's a patch. And there's another reason why they will bug their parent to come and help more. And then recognize beyond the PAC, if you have leaders, especially registered leaders who are busting it to do a great job for the kids and the families in your den and your PAC, share that with the school, the church, the community, so that they'll see their name in the church bulletin or the church newsletter or website, whatever is the communication channel, the school, the PTA. That will be a way for you to let everybody know you're helping out. But be personal. A thank you note, handwritten letter, very powerful. If your writing is like mine and it's not going to look good, have somebody to write those notes. You may have a volunteer who doesn't want to, lead fires or search for snakes or, lead cheers and songs with kids. But if they're happy finding the recognition items, writing those thank you notes, sharing the word, that's a great job to have. Let's go back to an organizing concept, repeating this idea, cut big jobs down to size. So important to pull in parents. Also, have a clear plan for events. If you're putting on an event, whether it's a camp out, whether it's a derby, give them a plan of what it is you want them to do so that they see how to do it. For den leaders, same concept. You can split up den meeting jobs into bits. We saw an example of that in the Bobcat plan, but you could also divide up other roles like leading games, leading cheers. You'll have the crafty leader, you'll have the outdoor leader. Same thing with activities. You don't have to have somebody say, all right, I'll run the whole Pinewood Derby, because that's too much unless you have a super small pack, but better to have somebody who's leading the car cutting, somebody who's working the repair shop and pit crews, somebody who's running the track, and somebody who's doing the registration, somebody who's leading concessions. And if you have a plan, share that with people, you can be successful. Ongoing administrative jobs should also be split up because some of them are really pretty big. Treasurer, can be just maintain the bank account and cut checks when the chair and cub master say it's okay and consistent with budget. But it could include also drawing up the budget. It could include collections. Somebody's got to be the reminder of who's got to pay. Recruiting and membership, that's got a lot of facets too. It's too much for any one person to do. You probably want to get somebody to do things like organize a team to go to your school open house, organize a team to be there for your sign-up night at school, organize some fun joining events in August so that families can come back to the pack. They can invite new families. Somebody to create that packet flyer that all families can hand out. Somebody to track applications and payments. Somebody to handle charter renewal. Somebody to help with school relations. A lot of ways to slice up administrative jobs. It's going to depend on the size of your pack, how many volunteers you have, because, collecting, dues from 100 families is a bigger job than collecting dues from 15 families. Consider also the right job for the right person, the Peter principle. Just because somebody's succeeded at a lower level doesn't mean they're going to succeed at the supervisory level. You may have the world's greatest den leader leading 10 to 15 kids. Nobody could do it better. If you have all of a sudden 80 kids in the pack and you need, 10 dens, that person, you may think, oh, that should be the cub master. But if that person's skill set isn't organizing 10 den leaders to put on 10 great den programs, you may need to look elsewhere or find a different model for how you're going to deploy. So keep people where they're most effective. Here's a concept. If you have a troop that you're affiliated with, consider having shared membership and communication and coordination, because there's a lot of things you do that overlap. Things like fundraising. If you've got a popcorn kernel for 30 Cub Scouts and a popcorn kernel for 25 Scouts in a troop, you could coordinate, figure out how to do this together. Same thing with a lot of activities, like charter renewal, like activities, because packs and troops, especially your older kids in the 4th and 5th grade, should have a lot of joint activities. It's good for the pack, it's good for the troop, it keeps kids in scouting longer. Here's an idea, share the lead. Let's say you have a reluctant den leader or no den leader, but you have a bunch of parents and they all say, we'll help. We've had dens that actually rotated the leadership of every den meeting among the parents, where each parent picked an adventure that they could lead, because every parent could do something. So you can get, couples to decide, we will lead this cooking adventure and we've got this. And then you just rotate among the parents. Also, protect those who volunteer. You may be super lucky. You get someone who says, I'll be the bear den leader this year. I know that the old den leader moved away. And that person thinks, okay, a den is, 6 to 8 kids, maybe 10. And we only had 5 last year. So, no problem. I've got this. Well, wait a second. What if you have 25 kids in the 3rd grade who sign up? Is that den leader now forced to lead 25 kids? I don't think that's what he signed up for. So you've got to figure out a way to protect that volunteer, because you got to keep that den leader with a group that den leader can manage, but also find a way to get other den leaders to work together so that you have 3 dens of 3rd graders who are able to do program together. Now, that doesn't mean you create a wall between the dens. We had this many times when I was a den leader, where we would have common openings, common games, common closings. But when it was time to sit down with our 3rd graders and teach knife safety, we didn't have one person teaching 25 kids. We frankly didn't have one person teaching 8 kids. We would have a team of people coming in to supervise the kids, but giving them the individual attention that they need. Another idea, numbers are real. It's a reason why dens have a certain size limit, because kids are going to get lost if they're in a crowd. So you may think you're a great den leader. You can handle 16 kids in that den, but I guarantee you it will revert to the mean, because you're going to have 4 or 5 kids who say, this group is too big for me. I'm lost. I'm not having fun. And if they're not having fun, they're not coming back. And a good small job for parents who like scouting but don't want to teach knives or lead songs or search for snakes is to be a welcomer, to be a new member coordinator, just welcoming new families in. Right size your program. Maybe less is more. If you have old materials that you see that tell you you have to do weekly den meetings, but you're saying we don't have den leaders who could do den meetings, they're going to quit. Obviously, you should do fewer den meetings. Less is more. You'll have more fun if you do it that way. So if somebody says you need to do weekly den meetings, no, you don't. There's plenty of PACs in Atlanta that have 1 den meeting a month and 1 PAC activity a month, and they're fine. It's a lot easier to have fun at 1 den meeting a month and have parents who say, can we do more? Can we do more? You can move on up. Also, don't be captive to the calendar. If somebody says you have to do your blue and gold banquet in February and give out all your rank awards by then, you are making it super hard on those den leaders to get done. Most are going to fail. They're going to be frustrated. They're going to quit. So what do? Don't be captive to the calendar. Move your awards banquet, your blue and gold banquet, to April, early May. That's going to be easier on parents, easier on den leaders. You'll have more fun. You'll have more kids stay in the program. Also, don't be captive. If the council says you have to go to Spooky Re, no, you could go somewhere else if you want to for a change of pace. It's your PAC. Consider when you're meeting. Most of the discussion about when dens should meet is what day of the week. Well, what about weekends? Weekdays are hard. Traffic is hard. Jobs are hard. 2 jobs are harder. But sometimes parents could break away on weekends. So you might have weekend den and activities and no school day activities, and find that you get more participation that way. Or you might have 1 den that meets on a Tuesday and 1 that meets on a Saturday. It's up to you. Also, keep it simple. You might have a perfect program. So the den leader guide at them, the big old heavy guide with 3 meetings per adventure. That's perfect, but it may be the enemy of the good program where you want to keep it simple. Also, keep the outing and scouting. Being outdoors is better than being inside, sitting in a schoolroom, learning about trees or nature. Better to go outside and experience it. Even if you're learning about civics, doing it outside is probably going to be more fun than doing it in a classroom, because they've had enough. Right size your program also means being sure there's fun for parents so that they're not sitting around all glum going, when is this going to be over? It will be over soon, don't worry. But make the program fun for parents. If there are things you can do to get them engaged, playing games, do it. Also, ask yourself, is what we're doing fun? If it's not fun, don't do it. Because if it's not fun for you as a leader, it's going to be hard to get someone else to take it over, and it's probably not fun for parents. So PAC meetings are a great example of this. There are some people who say, well, I was trained, we have to do announcements and skits and songs, but announcements are boring and we're not good at theater and nobody can carry a tune. If you'd rather go play kickball, you'd rather do a hike, you'd rather go fishing, you'd rather shoot off rockets, fly kites, do that. Do things that are fun, not things that aren't fun. Finally, self-diagnosis. If you're having a problem getting leaders, look carefully at yourself. Are you or is anyone being a barrier, by jumping in and pushing a volunteer out of the way? See what you could do to make it more open and available for people to volunteer. A great way is to let people do it their way, even if they fail. People learn from their mistakes, and you can counsel them, coach them so that they do it better. None of us did it great first time out. If we had a coach, we did it better next. Let people learn their way along. And if they fail, don't flog them. They may just do it different than you, or they're on their own learning curve. You want to encourage them, find something that they did that was good. So praise in public, criticize in private. Even if somebody put on like a really sorry campfire program as the new Cub Master, find something that they did that was great, and praise them for that. And then if they, if you need to criticize, hopefully it won't come to that. Hopefully it's just coaching. If they say, I don't really think I did a good job, tell them something nice like, oh, that was so much better than the first time I tried that. You are really going to do better next time. And I am sure, and we can help make sure that happens. Be patient, especially if you're trying to fill big jobs like Cub Master. You may have a target in mind. Think carefully about how you want to approach them so that they say yes. Also, when you do ask, they may say, no, I can't do that. And that probably does not mean never. Have the discussion, get to know people, and think about when you go back and ask, can you do it now? Or could you do something smaller now? And then finally, the last tip. It may come down to the Godfather. You've done a lot for someone, and maybe you do need to tell people someday, and that day may never come, I will call upon you to do a service. Because you may have to actually, lean on a parent who hasn't been involved and say, everyone else is participating, everyone else is chipping in. We're having the Blue and Gold Banquet. It's our last event of the school year. Could you do this small thing? And then make a big deal about it. And with that, I'm ending with this parable that you may have seen in any number of Cracker Barrel or other stores. But this is the scouting version about everyone blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could have done. We've given you 50 ways to lure a leader, and hopefully in that you will find ways to get a better leader team. Questions? Comments? Reviews?
One thing, and I know there's not a great many people on here, but one thing that we've decided to do actually before all the unit recruiting or school recruiting has started, PAC we merged with has an overabundance of the old academics and sports belt loops. We decided we were going to use those. We have them. Why not let the kids earn them? They don't have to be current to be earned.
Absolutely.
So my first three activities with my den particular is going to be golf, tennis, and math and compass belt loop.
There we go. Yeah. And the same thing goes with like the adventures that got retired at the end of May. Okay. They got retired for a variety of reasons that, as far as I can determine, came down to, it seemed like not as many people were doing those adventures because they didn't sell as many of the loops and pins.
Right.
Big whoop. If you've got 4th and 5th graders who are like doing movies, or even 3rd graders for that matter, they want to do movies. Just because movie making is no longer an official Weeblo's elective adventure doesn't mean you can't do that adventure. You may not be able to find the pin, but do the adventure if that's what your families want to do.
You can find the pin. I mean, even if it's just on eBay.
Yeah, and even if you make up, some sticker or award or other recognition for it, it's not the official old style pin, whatever. If it's fun for kids, fun for families, and safe, it's Cub Scouting, and that'll pull more people in. Like the future Steven Spielberg, Eagle Scout Steven Spielberg. Other comments? All right, well, I appreciate everybody for hanging in with that. I hope that, Ben, do I need to correct anything that I've said along the way?
No, I think you're good. Good stuff. Hopefully this has been beneficial to everybody. I've been kind of laughing and cracking up at your comments. It's pretty, and I really liked your accent there at the end. The Godfather, you just,
Well, yep. Sometimes you just have to pull people in. And we've got the material up there on the Atlanta Area Council website under volunteer recruiting resources, recruiting leaders, so that, you could actually take a breath and break this up into a series of, in a pack, if you wanted to look at certain of those items and take a deeper dive into them, and districts and councils, pull that down and not try to cover it all in 1 hour, because it's a lot to go through, and you could cover it in roundtables and other events, and think about ways to share this information. And if you got more, we could do 2 verses of 50 ways to lure a leader. If we get another 8 ideas, we'll be up to 100. So with that, thank you all for attending, and look for the live album to come out hopefully tomorrow.